Thank you very much for your patience. I would like to introduce the moderator for the next panel, Mr. Rich Preston, senior broadcast journalist from BBC News. Please, round of applause, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're having a good day so far. Today's session is about personalized digital marketing. I have an excellent panel to share their tips and insights with you. Starting on the far left is James Rutherford, who's the creative director for GlaxoSmithKline. They've recently reported growth in all three businesses: pharmaceuticals, vaccines, and consumer healthcare. And they employ over 100,000 people in 150 countries worldwide, so he definitely knows what he's talking about. Next to James is Gina Sim, who's the Innovation Director for Kimberley-Clark, a household name, Kleenex, Andrex, and those for those with little ones, Huggies as well. Last year, their net sales over $18 billion, so if someone's doing marketing right, it's definitely them. Philip Hwang is our brand consultant expert, next to Gina. He's based in Shanghai and is the regional strategy director for a firm called Brand Image, advising big name clients including Danone and Coke. And then on my immediate left here is Roy Eitan, who's the director and general manager for Indigo division with HP, which says it's a firm that wants to unite people, ideas and technology to solve the world's toughest challenges. And with that, let's start talking about personalized digital marketing. So Roy, starting with you, you brought some toys with you. What do we mean when we talk about personalized digital marketing?
Sure. So first, I want to be very fair to my colleagues on the panel. So we make technology, we make printing presses, we make software, we enable creativity. At the end of the day, the vast majority of the creativity is coming from these people on the panel and many people like them. Digital print is a relatively new thing. Print is about 1,000-year-old, frankly speaking, technology. Print was first invented in China exactly 1,000 years ago, and 500 years ago became part of the Industrial Revolution. But digital print is something that is about 20 years old. Okay? So the Indigo technology was launched in '93, and what we make is, again, software and hardware that enable to do what you do at home, which means print single page with a click of a button. We enable to do it in a commercial, industrial space. So what that enables is then to create unique products, where instead of having all the products the same, like all the water bottles that you have here, create every product as different. And one of the examples, we do a lot of campaigns with Coke, so one of the examples is this Coca-Cola bottle that I actually have a picture of one of my colleagues that is sitting here in the first row. So just imagine, what do you do with a Coke bottle that have your name? What do you do with a Coke bottle that is 100% unique with the design, or even at the level of a Coke bottle that actually have your picture? This is a personalized product. The value for you, obviously, is way higher than the regular product. Again, we enable to do that. These people actually execute on that. So
thank you
I'll
very
stop
much.
here.
Thank you. So I'm curious, very quickly, from each of the panel members, starting with you, James, an example of something you've seen that you thought either that would be ripe for personalization, or there's a personalization attempt gone really wrong.
Well, there's a number of excellent executions that we've seen relatively recently and a year or so back. Well mentioned by Roy is the case of Coke, who are sort of sublime at this sort of thing, quite frankly. I mean, from a design perspective, which is my background, my kind of core expertise, we strive for to create kind of brands that obviously consumers love and trust. And obviously, coming from GSK, we have a very much a grounding in science and nutritionally beneficial products, products that help you feel better and do more with your lives. And so having products or kind of tools at our disposal that allow us to really kind of create brands that not only consumers love and trust, that we can create differentiation with every now and again. We specialize in creating very kind of consistent brand. It's very important at a brand level that you have a core set of assets that any consumer could see and identify. Really, the benefit of something like a tool like digital printing in this case is it gives you that scope to create every now and again the kind of the flex of the brand to meet different needs, talk to different people, talk to unique people, individuals in some cases. And Coke really are the masters of that in terms of creating a consistent look and feel, but with a unique twist. Say the Share a Coke campaign, for example. You have a range of products at shelf that you would never not be able to tell was Coke, but at a individual level, you can find your own name and buy for a friend. It buys into their whole kind of ethos, the whole kind of principle of what Coke stands for, basically. Great execution.
Gina, what about yourself?
Well, I think before I point out examples, I take one step back and try to understand what is personalized digital printing, right? It's basically personalized touch. I think that is the most important among the technologies, because if you are able to apply a very good personalized touch towards the marketing brand, then of course the enabler, which is this HP digital printing, will come into play, and you will fulfill the whole experience for the consumer, right? So taking examples of what we recently have done in Korea, for our HP, for our Kleenex boxes, that it's a campaign. We find out local stories, local Korean stories about how a group of grandmothers actually go around the cities not knowing how to read and write, but at the end of the day, they went through some courses, education themselves. They began to learn how to write Korean, and they wrote down their life stories. And with those life stories, it's been printed on a very nice Kleenex box for them and to share with their friends and family. So that is a personal touch that goes beyond the packaging itself. And I think being a brand, having that ability to convey that type of emotion is really important, right? So I think that makes this digital printing really different compared to mass printing, compared to even segment printing as well. This is very much to that person with that special feelings and emotion that goes towards it. Yeah.
Phil, I'm really hoping you've got an example of terrible personalization that you can share with us. Phil, sorry.
Yes.
Terrible personalization. Actually, I want to take a step back, even one more step back, because I want to talk about maybe personalization first, because that is one of the biggest marketing trends affecting us now. It is exciting, this big trend, because we are living in an age of one, and this one is you as the consumer, in the sense that every single person now is a hyper segment. When we're talking about digital personalization, digital technology has allowed us to speak individually to every consumer. If you were sticking around for the last speech by Mr. Gupta, he was talking about storytelling. Storytelling doesn't get better when you're talking about yourself. And that's, I think, one of the key things about why personalization is important, because every consumer wants to be spoken directly to. So what's interesting about digital personalization, though, is most people probably think about it purely within a digital realm, because that's the original technology that has allowed us to speak to them. When we're talking about big data, when we're talking about behavioral modeling, all of that exists in the digital world. And I'm going to steal Roy's beautiful example. But I think what's interesting, and I know this is not a bad example, it's actually a good example, but what's really interesting to me is that personalization is crossing the line from just bits, right, to atoms. This is a great example. Sorry, still not answering your question.
Okay.
This is an amazing example, and I'll tell you why. This was a campaign by Oreo. I believe it launched first in the US, then China. I'm based in China. It allows you to customize the box with the pattern, colors, and all that. And you get this completely unique to you. And the reason why I personally love this is because I did this with my nephew. And the thing is, I think that as a marketer, we do a lot of campaigns, we do a lot of things. It's rare it was really heartening for me, we did the customization online, he got it in the mail, and the sheer joy that he showed, like holding this in his hand, was amazing. And I believe this is the power of personalization, not just in the digital realm, but when you cross it online to offline, to hold it something tangible in your hand. So this was, I'm really glad, Roy, you actually brought this, because this, I think this is a great example of what personalization, regardless of online or offline, can bring to consumers.
Roy, do you have a bad personalization?
I'll connect everything. Right. First, I'll go with the bad one. You heard Gina, okay? The key value proposition here is that you make something emotional. So you take a regular product, in some cases, or in many cases, a commodity, and you make it personal. Now, if you do that right, it's great. If you do it wrong, you might hurt somebody's feelings. So if, I have a Kit Kat box here, and the name is right, but imagine that the name will be wrong, right? This will actually hurt the brand. So one of the key things is to think very thoroughly of how do you make it simple and how do you make it right, and you're not using someone's wrong name, or you don't use something that is offensive or something like that, because it is now emotionally connecting the consumer and the specific brand. So you want to really make sure that you do it right. Now, I want to build on what Philip is saying. There is one major value proposition in personalization, and this is the connectivity between the physical atoms, as Philip was saying, and the bits and bytes. And it goes in multiple ways. So when somebody gets a Coca-Cola bottle with their name, or definitely with their picture, the next thing that they will do is they will go and speak about it. And today that means that they will go on the web and they will put a picture on Instagram or Facebook or something like that, and they will create immediate positive impact on the brand, right? They will give you free advertising in a sense. So this is one way. You have atoms, something is created with digital, made it personal, and that enabled an emotion that pushed the consumer to go on the web and brand yourself, brand you. The second thing is the second direction, and this is the Oreo example. So consumer goes online, they interact with your product, they literally create it unique. 100% unique. This is only Philip and his cousin's box. There is no second box like it. And you interact, and then you create the product, and then the product is sent to you. The thing that happens when this connection between atoms and bits and bytes occur is that for the brands of the world, for the GSKs or for Kimberley-Clark, they usually don't know who exactly is the customer. Suddenly they have the ability to connect to them in a one-on-one basis, so they can communicate in a direct manner. Now, this is extremely valuable, and I'm sure Gina and James will talk about it, but again, the ability to unveil who is really the customer that is buying a specific product is a byproduct of connecting the online and offline of the atoms and the bits and bytes.
So are we just talking soft power then? I mean, we live in an age where we're more connected than ever before. If I want to buy a bottle of Coke, I can turn to my smartphone and probably find 20 stores around me that will sell Coke. If I want to buy a new car, I can search that on my smartphone. Is this just for the sake of a few Instagram photos, Phil?
I feel like we need to first talk about different types of personalization. To me, I think about personalization above the line and below the line. In advertising, but my above the line and below the line is not your advertising, ATL, BTL. It's actually whether your campaign or what you're doing rises above or below your customer's consciousness. There's different types of personalization at play. There's a lot of invisible personalization where you're modeling behaviors, where you're showing your customer kind of recommended products and targeted products, where the customer doesn't really know that you're being targeted. That's completely unconscious. That, in my head, the way I think about it is kind of, to me, below the line. Now, there are other instances where you rise into the customer's consciousness, where they know that you're customizing for them. Then one more, there are examples of a lot of great examples of surprises, where, for example, way back when digital personalization first started, I remember the first time that the concept kind of came to me when KLM did this campaign where they surprised passengers at the airports based on their Twitter with a gift. That's when the customer knows that you're being catered to personally, but it's a one-off. Then this is a more kind of even more advanced way of personalization because you're customizing it to yourself. You have ownership. So the different types of personalization come with different intentions as to what the brand wants to achieve. Do you want to just have relevance, wherein you target it, utilitarily, your targeted recommendations? Do you want to surprise, or do you want to engage and have them interact and own the brand? So there's quite different types of personalization at play relating to what the brand wants to achieve, actually.
I agree. I mean, I feel that it really depends if you want to strengthen the relationship or cheapen the relationship. When we go strengthen the relationship, it's an exchange, right? So take it in context of online world, right? I go into a travel site. I went to book I wanted to book a travel package. In the end, maybe my leave is not approved. I can't attend it, right? But it keeps flashing up to me. That say, hey, remember this club med, please go. But I can't attend, right? So at the end of the day, I feel a bit frustrated because it keeps flashing into me. Things I don't want, I've been flashing for the next 2 to 3 weeks. At the end of the day, is that, how much is it is taking away from me, right? On top of it, if you are able to add value towards it, then it's a different story, right? Be it online or offline, it speaks the same language. But the interesting about this current time right now, we can have the type of same wow effect online into offline world. I think that's the difference between personalization. Personalization online has been there for the past maybe 10 years already, in different stages in terms of how close the relationship with. Ever since smartphone, it gets closer and closer, right? That's personalization. But now, we are able to change the offline world, like a bottle of water, a box, a packaging box, into that type of relationship, a wow effect relationship. And it's a different level of strengthening the relationship, I think that's a different dynamics now that we're offering, which is good, right? I think as brand and marketeers, it's something that they have to learn, how can I be able to add to this to give a personal touch? That's why it comes back to all the personal touch you can get.
James, a personal touch is all well and good if you're talking about a box of cookies or a stay in a hotel. Your firm produces, vaccinations, healthcare products, things that people don't necessarily want or know they want, but they need.
Sure.
How does personalization come into it when you're talking about, medication for everything from malaria to migraines?
Sure. To be perfectly upfront, my expertise was in the kind of consumer healthcare realm of that world. The world of pharma and OTC and pharma and vaccines is a very specialist segment of the world that, unfortunately, I don't have anything like the scientific credibility to talk about, and I'm pretty sure it would incur so many regulatory hurdles that nothing would ever be launched. So within the world of consumer, we still have we are certainly at another end of the spectrum from the likes of Oreo and Coke, where we are at a level where we are having to communicate benefits and claims and reassurance, and again, that point around trust and credibility. And so personalization, takes on a very different realm in that sense. And you have to have if I imagine in mind a hypothetical future where you are perhaps ordering, the world of e-commerce is inevitable the way it's taking off, and before long we'll all be ordering everything online, and that'll be the world we live in. And if I'm in a place where I'm ordering my, say, sports nutrition for the month, whatever, invariably I'll be linked up to the latest sporting event I have coming up, my calendar, the latest training regime that I'm on, and inevitably that'll be linked into the sports nutrition outlet that I'm purchasing from. And you can imagine a scenario where you're directly linked into the supplier, assuming, again, a hypothetical supply chain that can work with these things, that can provide a truly kind of personalized product that is packaged in a personalized way as well, to give you direction on the right time to use your product, to take your product, to get the best effect from it. And all of that then is then you kind of wander into the realm of, again, that kind of trust and reassurance, and how you provide the reassurance that that product is securely sealed, that it is the right product that you ordered, in which case the uniqueness of say, scannable codes, unique imagery on the pack that you can validate on the phone becomes essential, right? Because it's all about, you've broken that physical connection with walking into a store and purchasing from a person behind a counter. You're essentially clicking buttons online and something arrives in the post. You have to have the reassurance when that product arrives in the post that it is what you expect it to be. And as the brand, we obviously cannot be in a position where products aren't delivering what they're meant to, or they are producing results that aren't what the consumer expected, because these days, the one sort of unleashed comment on Twitter or whatever it is, and you're done for. So we have to be very cautious about how we manage, and yeah, the hypothetical future is a scary place, but the possibilities are fascinating.
Mass personalization is kind of an oxymoron. We usually associate personalization with your local grocery store or the mechanic that your family's been taking their car to for 20 years. Roy, are we going to see a plateau where the big firms can only do so much personalization and then it kind of has to be just good enough?
I don't think ever, but definitely not even close. In every aspect that you choose, the innovation that is created by human beings when you give them more tools and opportunities is always surprising. So we're literally at the beginning of personalization, maybe 10 years, but again, so many creativity that we see around us. I'm totally not concerned. One of the latest things that we did was launch a new software that enable mass personalization in a way, automated personalization. We have a solution that is a software that takes basic designs and is able to create from the basic designs endless unique designs, and that enables to create any product in millions. And make it 100% unique, 100% yours. You can connect that specific design with a unique number, and then you can go and take the design that you have with the number and go and create other products with the same design. So now you made a personalization in an automated way. And again, this is just started. I see Coca-Cola working on that, but so many other brands that we work with. So, there is no way that this is even close to a plateau. At the end, the emotion is what you will remember from this presentation. You will remember people speaking here about something that is personal. This is what you will end up walking out of the room. And it's the same thing with the product. If a brand is able to create a stronger emotion connection with the product, you will remember this brand, you will prefer it versus another brand. And personalization is the strongest way of creating it. So not even close to a plateau.
We're going to take some questions shortly if anyone has. One final question from me, and I'm going to direct this towards you, Gina. Data protection. Personalization is so often about knowing information about consumers. And, we've heard so many stories over the past year, even big, huge firms with millions of dollars to spend on their electronic security being hacked, people losing data. Governments are increasingly clamping down on what firms can do with people's data, especially in the online world.
Right.
How do you approach that, particularly when you're talking about healthcare products and things that are very personal to an individual?
Sure. I think all companies have to be very responsible in terms of data storage, number one. Right? So knowing that you are basically preserving or basically storing the data of your consumer has to be very much concrete. Right? With that in mind, then you are able to do that, to tap into the data you need, not every data. Of course, from a brand perspective, you can target on a lot of data, but we are not allowed. It shouldn't be a greedy perspective. It's exactly what you need. What is it that we need from a brand perspective to be able to talk to our consumers? Then be able to grab those data and be able to target them. I think that is the right motivation to move forward. I wouldn't speak for all companies, right? In the sense that, you know, we're able to be it's like floodgates of data. How are we going to protect them and target them? But of course, from our perspective, if this has always been our number one security issues, we would definitely be able to protect it and storage it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We've got 5 minutes left. Does anyone in the audience have any questions for the panel? I think there may be a microphone or two floating around. A couple of hands up just here. If you just wait for the microphone to come to you. If you could just tell us who you are, where you're from, and if there's a particular panel member that you're addressing your question to.
Hi, my name is Bipasha. Thanks for the sharing. Taking on that point about data, you talked about data privacy. Big data, as we know, brand marketers today have access to data as granular as they want it to be. There's data in different dimensions. So how do you strike a balance between automation of personalization, as someone mentioned, and stocking? Because really you have so much data that you can actually end up stocking your customers. And is that something that you consider when you work through your personalization workflow? Because again, going back to automation, when you have a huge number of consumers, you need to automate a certain aspect of your personalization. So how do you strike that balance?
Thank you. Roy, do you want to take that one?
So first, again, the examples that we see today for automation is actually not person specific. Okay, so again, even in terms of these boxes are different because of two things. One, there is software behind it that takes a very big design and zoom in and out into the design, and then it encourages the consumer to come and make that their own. So manipulate the design and make it very unique for them. So no information about you, right? Yet at the end, a very unique product was created. The information is not relevant. There is nothing in this piece of information that is dangerous for you. So a lot of the automation that we see is actually not dealing with your specific particulars. And I think that's what I said before around the mistakes around personalization. When you deal with your name and you misspell one letter, you know, especially in Asia, with all the different languages and all the different names and the cultural differences, it's so obvious to the consumer if you make a mistake. I would encourage as much as possible to avoid actually doing that. But on the other hand, create something that encourages you to go online, create your own product, and sell it to you at a higher premium. The more, the merrier.
Any more questions?
Hi, I'm Shiyun. I have a question. So it's related to automation as well. With finite resources, based on your experience, what and how do you guys achieve personalization at different stage of marketing funnels, from creating awareness all the way to purchase at scale?
James, I'm wondering if you might want to take that one.
I'm not sure if I am the right person, unfortunately. let me try though. So, I mean,
so thinking of the whole kind of marketing process.
So yeah, exactly. So I mean, we're in quite a privileged position. The design team we have, we operate as a design team in-house, effectively within GSK. So we have a direct link to our marketing teams, and so we're privileged in the sense that we can help drive these agendas through the business. And ensure that we have a sort of design control on them. In terms of the kind of creative control we have over that, then, and how, if I'm understanding the question correctly, anyway, how you give a certain degree of creative control over your brand assets, for example, so that you always have a true representation of them at shelf, whilst giving the flexibility to the consumer. It's almost kind of a sliding scale of how much play you want to give them on that scale, and how confident you are in the core brand assets that you're using in this case. For instance, again, the Coke iconic bottle, for example. How that then works through in sort of an automated sense into the sort of the direct execution of it, I'll kind of defer to sort of the HP knowledge in the room. But really, at the front end, it's all about that understanding the parameters we want consumers to play within, whilst at the same time ensuring that we have enough of our brand in there, that it again comes back to that point of when the consumer does interact with it, they have the trust that it is still the core brand product at its heart with their kind of personal touch on it.
And Philip, I'm wondering if in under a minute you can give us your perspective on that as well. At what point do you say to a client, this is where you need to inject some personalization?
Once again, as with any brand and any campaign, you have to be clear on your goals first, because what you want to achieve is going to determine how upstream or downstream your personalization happens. So for example, you can have very upstream personalization in the sense that, okay, I have a campaign, I want to distribute coupons, I just want a more targeted segment. Then that's quite upstream. You probably need a partner like Tencent or Alibaba or Amazon to give you that big data. That's quite upstream. Now a campaign like this, where it's about customization that you can own, that's quite downstream in the execution of the interaction, where you just need a dynamic kind of digital interface that lets you customize, personalize, and save it. So it does come down to your goals. Your goals will determine what type of tools and where in the process that you're going to need it. And actually that's a quite big problem, quite big challenge in the sense that there's a lot of tools out there. Your tech stack is probably differ, campaign to campaign, project to project, brand to brand. And quite honestly, it's still an evolving answer too, because this is relatively new, especially crossing into atoms. So you might also get different answers from different brands experimenting with it.
Great, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking my panel, James Rutherford, Gina Sim, Philip Hwang, and Eitan. Thank you very much.